She told my love that love outside the book. She want know the book. Yeah. But I want to give you some love. She outside the book. She still want know the book. Yeah. If money no day, now wait till she can. She tell me say she gonna run away. She gonna run very far away. Yeah. I said, Papa, don't get because they fail. See the baby don't come again. You don't forget back in the days. I've been the baby to cry. Reason with me. If I don't get today, I go let them tomorrow. Do you want to make a cry? Make no reason for me. I don't get to if I don't get today. I'm messing up the people song. I say music with me. You want for the money? So for the show. Dream for the show. Now I don't know. Want for the money? So for the show. Dream for the show. Now I don't know. Yeah, want for the money? So for the show. Dream for the show. Now I don't know. Want for the money? You for the show. Dream for the show. You see this life?
That was a good song from P Square. These days you can't even tell who is P Square or Peter or Paul. Whichever one, P Square, Peter or Paul. That's who made that song. And in that song is saying, reason with me. Women don't reason with you.
Why you say that?
You sit down, you look for trouble. How you get your money, how you buy them the.
It's not my business.
It's not-
As long as you can buy me my Gucci shoes.
Yes, as we said before went on that break, I was going to have a special guest in the studio, and they will be welcoming in with this lovely song. We have the wonderful, super talented IT professional in the house with us today. Young and talented, very vibrant young man. I'm talking about Jyrone Parker. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jyrone Parker into the studio.
Hey, when you get over, you got dance. Make sure you dance.
Thank you. I'm great.
This life I can't keep myself. I can't keep myself. I can't keep myself. Allow me to flex. This life I can't keep myself. I can't keep myself. I can't keep myself. Allow me to flex. Many years me I done the go. Rock me, rock me, I rock the show. Many hit songs when I go. Still they will say me I know they try. I see them complain.
Yes, you're welcome once again.
Thank you.
Yes, Jyrone. We're happy to have you on Afro Fusion today. And we're just trying to, it's been nice for our guests to know a lot about you today. So we're going to try as much as possible to put the word out there about who you are, and there's a platform to tell the world about yourself, what you do, everything about you, professionally, personally, we want to know, okay? So that's what we're going to be doing today.
All right.
And of course, we met my co-host, the amazing Haja Kamara.
Amazing.
And,
Stop it.
and together, we'll be, you're already on the hot seat, and you should be ready to entertain. I mean, we're trying to be speaking the minds of our people out there who really want to know who you are. So let's start this way. Who is Jyrone Parker?
Jyrone is how it's pronounced, but it's okay.
Jyrone?
You can't.
Jyrone.
Yeah, you can't really get that from the text. It's Jyrone.
Jyrone, okay.
Okay.
But so I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I do a myriad of things, but what I'm most known for is I'm a software engineer, and I own some software companies. So I've actually been writing code since I was 8 years old. Started my first company when I was 14 in high school.
Wow.
I still run that company today, in addition to some of my other companies. I went to University of Kentucky. I dropped out, moved out to the Bay Area, and then I was doing some work for Apple. I did some work for Kabam, and my longer stretch was at Sephora as a senior engineer. Moved back after I had children my second child, moved back to Kentucky, and these last few years I've just been focused on trying to cultivate the tech and entrepreneur space in the state, particularly in Louisville. As far as like a tech economy in Kentucky, it's really non-existent. We have a few companies, with Humana being the big dog, and that's not even a tech company; it's a health insurance company that just has a big tech portion. We for lots of reasons, Kentucky and specifically Louisville is a very well situated to be a tech hub, especially in this region. But through various reasons, most of it being bureaucratic, we aren't really getting that push that we could have, that we need. Because Louisville could easily be a tech city like how Atlanta is right now.
Yeah.
We have a huge Black population, very talented. We have lots of beautiful minds that have nothing to do. That's why everyone leaves when they turn, 18. They either go on to college somewhere else or they'll take a job somewhere else, and they just leave. And then that just hurts the present and future economy for the people who live there. So I do run a blog, JyroneParker.com, and I give programming tutorials and also entrepreneurship advice and things. I have a YouTube channel that goes with it, and I do video blogs. So I left the corporate space, and now I'm focusing on all my own things. I have apps that I run that generate revenue. Recently got into real estate. That's something that I'm doing. But I want to make sure that using my skill set, I can take care of myself and those immediately around me, contracts, employees, family. So I want to be a living example that you can use your skill set, to make something for yourself. You don't have to necessarily always work for someone else, and if you do work for someone else, that doesn't have to be your only source of income. So using your mind to achieve financial freedom, which I think is, and in particular, like I said, in the Black community. So I work with engineers all across the African diaspora. I have some engineers I work with in Zimbabwe. Have some engineers that I've worked with in the Dominican Republic. Black engineers across the U.S. that I work with. But it's very important to me to work with my own people, to be able to provide jobs to my own people, to be able to network and learn from my own people. And technology has enabled me to do that. So very blessed, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a very awesome profile. I mean, it seems like you have practically dedicated your whole life into what you believe in, and that's the kind of spirit that we're looking for. The world really awaits you much more than where you are right now, because I know that you have the potentials already and you have the drive. That's awesome. So let's talk about the IT world. How educated is an average person walking the streets about the value, especially our people? Let me be very specific now. How educated are they about the need to explore this industry?
Very uneducated, especially our people. So, and speaking about America, Black Americans are the biggest demographic that have the most digital interaction. So we on all the platforms in which we're on, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, we are the demographic that's consuming the most content. Yet Blacks only make up about 2% of engineers. So I remember I read this article somewhere. It said if you took all of the Black engineers from Yahoo, Google, Apple, Facebook, and I think Amazon, if you took all the Black engineers, they would fit on one 747 Boeing, and there would still be room on the plane.
Yeah.
And I would have been on that plane. I worked at Apple, and I'm just like, and I remember reading that article, and I was just like, damn, like, yeah, we're not here. But we have, because we interact with it so much, we're very tech savvy as a people, as a demographic, and also the need for engineers. There's only a couple million engineers in America, and there's going to be over 15 million IT jobs needed this year. We literally don't have enough people.
Yeah.
So if so that low hanging fruit, there's low hanging fruit there for there to be a radical wealth change if more of us got into tech, because you can get in starting with high five, low six figures just starting out. Now, I don't have a degree. I dropped out, and every job that I've taken post dropping out has only been a senior engineer position. So I have a really unique story because I've never worked. I started my first company when I was 14, and then by the time I started taking corporate level contracts, I'd already been doing stuff for mom and pop shops and other small companies and stuff. I had enough in my repertoire to come to Dell. I took a contract with Dell as a senior engineer with no degree, because the skills are that much in demand. Companies don't have time to wait for you to go to school for 4 years. They're looking for the 16-year-old kid who's been writing iOS apps after school. And by the time he's 18, he's way better than the 22-year-old who just started coding at 18 and just started coding in class, because it's a different structure. Academia is a different structure than real world. So yeah, I mean, we have an opportunity to have a radical wealth change if we buckle down. I think tech literacy and financial literacy should be the number one and number two things in every Black household that should be taught for this upcoming generation.
Honestly, you don't even have to go to school to be successful, to be honest. So I'm dropping out.
Well, people answer a lot
Right.
of to this. Well, I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
it doesn't work around that axis for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to have your own passion. You pursue your passion in whatever ways you can. There are some fields that you fall into that you have to go to school to get any form of recognition or even get an employment. You have to go. That's what they want to see. But there are some that are very practical. Just where is the skill? If you have the skill, they don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
Just as you have stated. But my question is still it's of concern that I know that we consume a lot when it comes to IT, when it comes to technology. I know that with our phones, internet, and all of that. As a people, what are the basic things that scare people from venturing in the IT? Sometimes people have the impression that it's not for Black people. Some people have the impression that it's so technical, I don't want to bother myself.
Nerdy.
And sometimes some people just want a quick way out. They don't want to task their brain and venture into the world of the unknown. They want to venture into what they already know.
Yeah.
So what would you say is, from your experience, because of course I'm sure you also want to have colleagues doing the same thing, your people, you want to interact with them, grow together.
Absolutely.
What has been the challenges that you think we have faced as a people?
Yeah, it's definitely, our people have a fear of the unknown. And media has done a real great job of making computer science seem like this magical, mystical, voodoo that only,
only a few can.
Yeah, only a few Asian and white people can touch. Right. So, a lot of people, when I talk to them about, programming, they think, oh, don't I need to know a whole bunch of math? And that's the first thing. And I'm like, well, computer programming touches literally every industry that you can think of. Computers have infiltrated. So, yeah, if you want to do quant programming, the people who are doing like the banking stock trading algorithm, stuff like that. Yeah, you're gonna need some math. If you want to write an app that fills out a form and prints out a sheet, you don't really need math for that. So computer science is really vast. It's not just math and science. It's not just it's used for any and everything. So if you don't want to use math, you don't necessarily have to use math. That doesn't mean you can't be a programmer. And just because you're good at math doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be doing math in your programming. So finding your niche and what you like to do, you can map that in computer science somewhere, somehow. So whether it's through graphic design or writing radio apps or mobile apps, there's literally anything you can fathom. There's somewhere that computers can interact with it. So letting people space that movies and TV shows make you think, it's like just hacking into systems and it's this, that, and the third. You need big, thick glasses and a laptop with a bunch of stickers on it, So I teach, one of the things I do is I teach, I do one-on-one classes with kids. So there's a lot of people who, they homeschool their kids and they want to add computer science to their curriculum. So I've gotten into the habit of doing that. And the first thing I do is the first session I spend with the child and I figure out what they like. There's one kid, he was really into Minecraft. And so I put him on a video game development thing. There's one other kid, he really likes music. So I started teaching him audio programming. I figure out I customize and figure out what it is that you like. So there'll be the closest, the biggest amount of connections that makes it easier to learn. I think the biggest aversion is just because lack of knowledge. We don't know what computer science is and how vast it is. Just like how every child in school, they teach you how to use Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel.
The basics.
Yeah, the basics. Everyone should know basics of programming. It's simple. Like, we all know how to do macros in Excel, right? They teach you how to do the little functions in Excel. That's programming. If everyone who remembers MySpace and we're making their banners and changing it, that's programming. That's actually how I got into web programming, was through MySpace. I was doing desktop programming using Java, but that's how I started learning about JavaScript and CSS and HTML was because of MySpace. And now web development is mostly what I do. So, I can thank MySpace for that. There's a lot of stuff that we already do that we don't even realize is programming.
Yeah. I was taking computer programming last semester, and I was like, yay, I want to learn about more of computers and like IT things, but the way the professor was just teaching, it was boring, and I'm like, I want to learn more, but you're not teaching me anything. You want me to teach myself? I can't teach myself, but if I don't know what I should learn. Right. So I wish I knew you before I took that class, so you can like help me understand what I was doing and stuff. But
yes, that takes me to the next question. Is what as a school or the style of teaching computer networking, IT generally, how has the schooling educational system contributed to making that field a scary one? Because if you look at it from a distance, even our basic elementary mathematics class, if math teacher comes and says X was Y was Y,
they
X
make it so hard.
X is 5.
Yeah.
Right.
What's that? But if you students who understand, they're clapping, oh, you got it right. But you don't, well, I can never know math.
Yeah.
So you just end it there.
Yeah.
So what style do you think the educational system can apply, especially for kids, so that they're attracted to to IT?
So, one of the reasons why I dropped out of University of Kentucky was that when I went into my classes, I already had 10 years of programming experience. Like I said, I started when I was 8. So, I'm 18 going into intro classes, and I passed. I got my A's and stuff, but I remember thinking, if I did not already know programming, there's no way I would have passed this class. Because the way they teach is just, is crap. Yeah. So how I learned and how I teach others is a kinesthetic approach. Like, you have to break stuff, because if the cool thing about programming is when you did it right and when you did it wrong. So because it's a logical base structure, if you break something, and you write the code, you can step back methodically and figure out where the broken space is. If you don't know what to do, we can research. We got things like Stack Overflow and Google, and these classes of problems have been seen by millions of programmers all across the world. So we live in this information age where it's really easy to find solutions. So when you're looking at your own code and you're fixing something that you broke, that triggers different parts of your brain than me giving you a worksheet and it's like, look at this snippet of code.
Yeah.
In the academia space, we don't, we're really critical of people making mistakes. So people are afraid to ask questions. They're afraid to try think outside of the box because you're only shown one or two ways to do something. You think those are the only parameters that you have to fix that problem. When we should reward people for being creative. We should reward people for trying to find other methods, because if it weren't for people trying unconventional methods, we wouldn't have the algorithms that we have today. We're still every day we're making new algorithms. Like, we're doing things that people have never done before.
So wait, before you said algorithm, not everyone is gonna know what an algorithm is. So what is it basically?
Think of algorithm as just a reusable set of instructions.
Okay.
So if I had an algorithm for baking chicken, right? I would defrost the chicken, season the chicken, preheat the oven, put it in the oven for 25 minutes, take out the oven. That would be the algorithm for baking chicken.
Okay.
The set of instructions.
Oh wow! I hope you're learning something new, because I am.
Yeah.
I was a bad math student. I was going to run away from IT. I was not going to do IT. But it's becoming more attractive as our guest is breaking it down for us today. I hope you're learning something too and getting more and more enlightened. I know I just learning something.
I really am.
Yeah, we should run away from the IT class last semester. Well, that's something.
I said, I'm out of here.
Okay, we're going to take another break. Please don't go nowhere. Please be part of this. More is to come. Our guest has a lot more for you. Don't go nowhere. Still, don't Fiesta and hide your own Horizon Radio Afrofusion. We'll be right back.
How do you
Yes, we're back.
We're back.
Like we never left.
We literally did it.
I didn't leave. We didn't leave. We're still right here with you today. Yes, we're going to take you on some other more practical and more personal aspects of your career.
Yeah.
Now,
So you say that you started this IT thing when you was 8 years old. So like, who influenced you, and like, what were you doing as an 8-year-old to? Did you play outside, or did you just stay on the computer while, like, what did you do?
Yes, I did spend a lot of time outside. But so how I got into programming is a really interesting story. So my mom, she was going to Sullivan University for IT engineering manager. She's a project manager, IT project manager now. So she had to take a couple programming classes, like intro and then like level 2 or whatever. And I don't remember what I did. I did something bad, and she was like, you need to clean off the bookshelf. And that was like my punishment instead of, getting my behind beat. So I threw a fit and I knocked off all the books. And the book that fell on top was her college programming book, Intro to Java, Deedle and Deedle. I keep it on my bookshelf to this day. And it kind of looked like a comic book. And I was an avid reader. So when I was 8, I had a 12th grade reading level. So, I picked it up and I started reading it. I think it was a comic. Quickly realized it wasn't a comic, but they were talking about computers and you were able to do things like make video games. And I'd always thought, making video games would be something cool. So we already had the computer, already had Java installed, already had the IDE and everything needed to develop because you had to use it for class. So I literally just took the book and over the course of a year went from cover to cover and I taught myself programming. And I just fell in love with it. So then when I was 9, I taught myself C++ and I built my first robot. My mom had bought me a robot kit. It was like a little spider bot or whatever. And I actually reverse engineered it and, you know, started figuring out, that's how I got into electronics, the hardware side of the programming. You know, it was an embedded device, had embedded software on it, meaning all the logic for the robot was hardwired on the chipset, type of thing.
You're talking way too IT for me. I don't know. Well, okay, I understand.
Well, I think that was a very deep one. You know, as a child venturing out. I mean, at that stage, it's obvious. I mean, for hearing you out now, I'm not surprised that you've gone this far because curiosity, they say, kills the cat, or curiosity actually takes you from wherever you are to where you really want to be because that's being daring and, you know, breaking all the rules, you know, which is good. Now, this question about Asia, you know, being at the top of, you know, breakthroughs in IT and all of that. I think one of the things they have is that they have this building power. They like to create. They like to build up. Even as kids, they train them to build up things and to create every version of anything in life. You can find it in China. Even if you take it to them and say, you know, can you create me this? They can create it for you from scratch. And even kids do that. So why do you not think actually that one of the reasons why other parts of the world are very slow when it comes to IT is because they don't like to create. Building up their own stuff.
No. I think it's vast majority, one, lack of resources. And then 2, just lack, like you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't have, you know, if you've never seen someone who looks like you as a computer scientist, and you know, you're not going to naturally be inclined to picture yourself doing that. That's a genetic, psychological linked thing. You know, if you don't see representation, you know, it's hard to conceptualize something. And then going back to lack of resources, you know, you can have the best ideas and the best theories, but if you don't have the thing to be able to manifest this into this 3D reality, then it's just going to stay up here in your mind. So when you have both of those coupled together, you know, I mean, that's like having a garden, and then, you know, part of your garden is enveloped in, you know, the shroud of trees. It's not getting sunlight. You might get some sunlight. You might have 1 or 2 plants that make it out, but that patch of grass, that patch of vegetation is not going to be as vibrant as the patch that's out in the open field getting the sun. So we need to remove the shrouds, the tree branches, the metaphorical tree branches that are over these other parts that aren't seeing as much acceleration. So if everything was an even playing field, you know, I guarantee other parts of the world will be like vastly ahead of the United States. You know, our power, the United States' biggest asset is that, you know, the whole world comes here. We are a melting pot of intellectual minds. If we didn't have, you know, people from Africa and Asia and other parts of Europe coming and, you know, bringing their ideas, we wouldn't be anything.
Awesome. So, talking about you right now, in more specific terms, what are the services you offer? You know, what are the things? I know you have vast knowledge and ability when it comes to this, and a lot more businesses that you do. But as far as IT is concerned, what actual services do you offer? You know, just can you break that down?
Yeah. So, you know, I do coding. So if you need a lead engineer to come in on your project, you know, let's say you have a startup idea, you have a budget and you need an MVP, a minimum viable product. That's just your prototype basically. So you can take that to investors to get more money, et cetera, et cetera. I offer to be a lead engineer. So meaning not only am I taking on the coding, but I'm also leading the team of engineers that's going to be working on it. Usually no more than 3 people. Usually don't small teams, but usually outperform larger teams. So, we're doing a startup. It's going to take about 3 months to get this prototype out. I'm an engineer. I hire you have another senior engineer and usually a junior or a mid-level engineer. So, I'll do that. I offer consultations. So, if you already have the prototype, but let's say you need some guidance on approaching a venture capitalist or taking it to market if you want to bootstrap it yourself. I help you with that. So based off like your analytics, your demographics, every different metrics of what makes up your product, I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you the best advice to go whichever route you're trying to go. Mm-hmm. I also speak at conferences. Last year I spoke at API Days in San Francisco. This year I'm trying to speak a whole bunch. I'm trying to speak in London this year, Amsterdam, Singapore, New York, and go back out to San Francisco. So doing meetups, going to conferences. If I don't speak at them, I usually cover them on my YouTube. What else? The consultation and the engineering are pretty much the 2 biggest ones. And then from everything's kind of like subdivided into there. So like I said, running groups, running meetups, doing code, doing mentorship. If you go to my website, JyroneParker.com, you'll actually see a whole list of all my things. So like I said, this year I've been kind of branching and cutting off the branches and going into my brand. So everything is being centered around JyroneParker.com. Mm-hmm. So I do video courses and stuff on there. So ranging from programming courses like building a point of sale system using Laravel and Vue. That's 2 technologies, or all the way to doing stuff with entrepreneurship. So like how to take my app idea, to market, getting your first 1,000 users, retaining those 1,000 users, to talking about like how to construct a CFP, a call for proposal. Like if you're interested in speaking, courses on how to construct those so you can, get as many placements as possible. So everything that I do is really wrapped around the 2 concepts of engineering and entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I believe that, if you have a certain skill set, you should be able to, be self-sufficient with that skill set. Mm-hmm. Whether you want to just be a solo freelancing engineer, you just, want to do web apps or mobile apps for people, all the way to, you want to run a full scale consultancy. This is how you do it.
Okay. Now, how would you reach out to our people? Because I know a lot of people who want to start businesses, who want to even start retail stores, mm-hmm. who want to have their automated teller machine and all that, or who want to upgrade from where they are. People who have regular businesses, even the hairdresser salon, who needs to have some IT, some softwares that can make their jobs easier, because a lot of people are still very, very, basic, mm-hmm. Around us. And with the wealth of knowledge you have, being in a part of our community, how do you intend to reach out to people who are into business, people who need things that you can offer? How well do you refer? I know you teach people, you enlighten people, but people out there who are already doing their thing, how do you get into them, into their businesses and tell them, what, you're doing this thing like this. That was done 20 years ago. This is the better and easier and better way of doing things. I can do this for you. People want to hear that kind of information. How do you reach out to some people?
So that's a really good question. For me personally, anecdotally, my biggest market engine has been word of mouth. So, when I started out doing, like I said, small mom and pop stores, individuals, people who, they want to start, hair, mobile hair salons. So, can you write me an app so I can collect payments and do appointments to do people's hair and stuff like that, right? So almost every time I've done that, I would say on average I get 2 to 3 more clients, because they'll go tell their friends, and these are all Black people. So they'll go tell their friends to do this, that, and the third. Is like, talk to Jyrone Parker, talk to Jyrone Parker, talk to Jyrone Parker. So I've been blessed where I haven't had to actually do as much marketing footwork, because of that. And I've also worked with people like Boyce Watkins. I've done apps for Tariq Nasheed. I've worked with some other big name people who have who've basically done that marketing for me. Like when I did a radio station for Mr. Vegas, and that went really big. I had some of Sean Paul's people reaching out to me, and that was it was just really cool. It was just word of mouth. I don't really get starstruck, so and I do work for celebrities. I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. But when I get another call like 6 months later, like, yeah, you did work for such and such. Do you mind doing the 90-minute consultation with us? Yeah, sure. It'll be X amount of dollars. Like I love that our people, as much as there's a stereotype about like Black-owned businesses and Blacks not supporting Black-owned businesses, when we do support each other, it's a really beautiful thing. And so I've been blessed to see the positive side of Black networking and providing quality service and other people referring that. So and this year I do want to do more targeted marketing towards the people that you were saying who could use more automation in their business to get them up to modern standards. So what I'm going to be doing is like targeted ads on Facebook, Instagram, Google, and I can actually target those demographics. That's a positive side of all this data collection that goes on in the digital age, is that you can target people for good purposes. So and as far as locally, because I always tell people, don't think globally if you can't do locally first. There's more than enough work in Louisville and in Southern Indiana that I can be can explore and do. So something I will be doing more boots on the ground marketing and going to businesses in the West End, talking to them like, hey, do you need a payment processor? Hey, I can help you with online ordering. Hey, you're doing real great. Would you be interested in setting up an online store? And doing Shopify, carts, et cetera. For example, there's this store called Health Daddy Wow in Louisville. It's off Ralph Avenue, and it's a health store. They sell holistic soaps and herbal teas, and et cetera. I told them like, hey, you're doing great on the brick and mortar side. There's not really much I can help you with, but maybe you should consider doing online orders. That's something that I can help you with. And I love partnering with Black businesses. So I'm not, back when I was like 20, 21, 22, I was very, had a very capitalist mindset. And I was, just straight charge. And I was just cared about, acquiring capital. Now in this stage of my business and my career, I really want to focus on doing long-lasting partnerships. So, if there's a store, Black-owned store, they're just starting out, they may not have as much capital because they're brand new. I will put up some of that work. I'll eat that cost up front just so I can work with you in the long term. Because by working together, having synergy, we both are benefiting more than we would individually. So I'm all about synergy, Black synergy.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before we go on the next break, or time, oh my God, time, we never have time on the show. We never have time. But we're going to take this short break and we're going to come back. It's been a very enlightening time. Trust me, it's been a very enlightening time. And I can go on and on, but I think I'm going to still squeeze in like 2-3 questions after this 1 minute break. Just enjoy the music. 1 minute break. Yeah, I'll be right back. Okay. Thank you very much, wherever you are. We don't know where you are. Thank you for the song. We're going to come back to our guest. I have a question. People have two major concerns when it comes to patronizing IT. Yeah. Number one, okay, for example, someone who is into business, like you rightly mentioned, a lot of people are on Instagram, right? Selling stuff, shoes, clothes, doing their own business, advertising their hair brand, and they need such services where people can really just log in or download the app and just pay and do whatever they need to do, and if their appointment is booked, they don't even need to call or speak or go anywhere, just do that online and they're good. But a lot of people are concerned about two things. Number one, they're concerned about the cost of acquiring such. Yeah, that's number one. Number two, people are a bit skeptical when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to pay when you drop your card somewhere, your card information on one app, and then your money is going to get deducted from your card. What happens to your card information? People are a bit skeptical about these kind of things. And that's why a lot of people just go to the store and say, you know what, I'm not buying that. Let me just go to the store and see what I'm buying and pay even cash. A lot of people carry cash around these days. They don't want to use their card. So how do you kind of deal with such situation? How do you as a professional give, through your services and your guidance and professional counseling, how do you deal with such people who have such impressions? Because I take it or not, believe it or not, all the banks suffer it every day.
Yeah.
But of course, they are insured. Whatever happens, they can afford to give your customers their money and claim back through insurance. But that small scale business owner cannot afford to do that.
Yeah.
If somebody breaks through the security of the app tomorrow and takes somebody's card information, it will be their responsibility to be questioned. So how do we deal with the issue of security?
How do you build trust?
Trust
Yes.
and security.
Very, 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 very good question. So, as far as let's go with your example for payments. On the tech side, companies that's the number one concern that they're having. Problem they're having is like, how do we build trust? So that's why having standards in computer science are important. Companies like Google, Apple, Facebook, they've come up with like these standards, web standards for like collecting payments on the web. And that's why you see things like pay with Google Pay, pay with Apple Pay, because that abstracts a lot of that security away from the developer. So each individual developer doesn't have to worry about it because we have a standard protocol. And people, you're gonna trust Apple Pay over just put your card information on my random website that you don't know. Now the process, so you have the payment processor. Those are the people that actually tokenize your information, give it a secure hash and withdraw the money. So these are Visa, MasterCard, all of them. So there's this company called Stripe, and they are the backbone for most online e-commerce stores. So every time you use Lyft or I don't know if Uber still uses them or not, but Target online,